Hello again, I'm Mark with Best Trains, and we're going to be talking about O-gauge structures in this video. And this is a good part because this is where the fun begins. So I'd like to first start off by saying there's no more expensive real estate than what's on your train layout. And by that I mean everything that you put on there is competing with space. So we got this structure here, and this is the footprint that it's going to take up, and that's about 5 by 5 inches. This is a Lionel water tower, and so it's important to before you go out buying your accessories to really have a good plan, and I did talk about that earlier. And bring back Mr. Whiteboard here. So before we get into the structures, oops, got some marks on here already. So let's say you have your layout, and I'm just going to use a rectangle, even though I'm pretty anti-rectangles. Say this is your layout. Let's say you have businesses here, and then you got a mountain here, and you got some residential homes. Maybe you got a lake here, and maybe there's another mountain with a coal mine in it. So you're going to put structures on your layout, but you got to run your track through there. So this is, and you know, you're going to get your graph paper out, and you're going to design your layout, and then you're going to redesign it. This is why we're actually talking about structures. Is you're going to have your railroad. Let's say it comes from the mine and it goes by buildings or industry. It's going to have a siding, and then you can't run through the residential area, so you're going to have to curve around. Maybe there's another business or another town over here, and the train will come around here, and then you got to cross a lake, so you're going to have a bridge crossing that lake. There's a siding that goes that way, and might have something over there, but then you get your main line coming back and a spur going into the coal mine. So I mentioned in an earlier video not to make mistakes, because mistakes are actually going to cost you money. So have an idea, and this is a terrible picture, but have an idea in mind what your overall layout is going to look like. Natural landscape, mountain with blue for the lake, and we'll talk about water and lakes later when we get to scenery. So you want to have a good plan, and once you get that plan, then you can start buying your O-gauge structures. So let's get started. Available on the market, you've got Lionel O scale. This is a suburban house, and later in the video I'll have a gallery of all the things I'm showing you. Lionel water tower. Now, let's pull another Lionel piece here. This is the Lionel radio station. It's actually pretty cool. It's got a working AM/FM radio built into it. But again, the reason why I pulled this out is because of the footprint that you're going to leave on your layout. It's not real big. It is tall, so it's kind of impressive for the small compact space. And also available on the market, MTH. This is the grain mill, I believe. Forgot what this was called, granary. This is a pretty cool structure. I've been wanting this one for a while. It's got doors that move, lights up, really well built. So these are pre-built structures, and let's see here. These are two more Mike's Train House buildings, office building, maybe apartment building, whatever you want to maybe make them into. But these aren't the only ones available that are pre-made, and I'll show you one in a little bit here when we get the kits. They're kind of on the expensive side. You buy one, it's okay, but when you're thinking about a city block, it may get expensive. So I got some other options coming up. And anyway, I wanted to mention that the other manufacturers that I know of, and I probably won't get them all, but they'll be in the comment section below. So our next section of this video is going to be the kits that are available. So let's start with those. So what we have here, we have an old Lionel kit. I believe they still manufacture this. I'm not 100% sure, so don't hold me to that. But I got this at a garage sale. This is a really good kit. I have one assembled. I'll put that in the gallery. It's a pretty high kit. I think probably now if you could find one on eBay, they're about 50 bucks. But it's a grain elevator. And again, a lot of these kits are tall, but they don't leave a big footprint. This is a Riso kit from England. It's actually meant for wargaming. And if you don't know what wargaming is, you can Google that on the internet. But it's pretty cool. It does work for O scale. But what's neat about this is that it comes apart. And I actually have a video on this open box video and also assembly, so you want to check that out, see it being built, you can. Move that out of the way. And so the next thing coming up is what's called plastic bill. And if you've been collecting trains for any amount of time, you're going to come across these. And these are really cool kits. They were advertised in 1946, and they went into production or sales in 1947. And when you find them, they may not be complete, they may not be in great shape. But if you're collecting trains for long enough, you'll probably get parts that you need as you go. So they're really well made. Obviously, this one was from the 40s or 50s. They snap together very well. The idea behind these was that you could assemble them and then take them apart when you put your train in storage. So they're small, they don't take up much space. And if I suggest, if you're going to assemble these and you're thinking about gluing them, but you think you might want to take them apart someday, you could use silicone glue. And I would put a round ball on the corners, because if you ever did want to take it apart, you can just peel that silicone glue off. Heat glue is a little bit messy, so I wouldn't suggest. If you just want to permanently make these, I believe this one is glued together. You can, which is great. But if you ever, it gives you the option if you want to take them apart. So the interesting thing about these kits here, or the models, is that the overall structure was actually meant for S gauge, 1/64 scale, but the windows and doors were actually meant for O scale. So it was a kind of a good compromise between two scales. They could sell to both and only have one item that would actually fit into both train layouts. So anyway, Plasticville, I think in 1984 there was a hostile takeover, and that's when they were started to being built in China. So I did want to show you. I actually have an old one and a new one, and I will assemble that here in a second. But this is one of the newer ones from China, still made by Bachmann under the Bachmann label. So let me pull these out, let me put this together, and I'll show you the two side by side. Okay, so what we have here, we have the older structure. I couldn't begin to date this, probably an expert could. So I'm missing a few pieces, I didn't realize that. But I'll take this old piece off the newer one, and it looks like they're built to the same specifications. So whether you find some old kits or you buy a new one, looks like they're both going to work, and they're actually interchangeable. So that's pretty cool. Again, this one's made in China. This one was made in the USA. So moving on to kits that I want to show you for no other reason is one of the biggest enemies against your train layout is going to be dust. It's going to be everywhere. I don't care what climate you live in, you have dust. It's going to be dusty out here like it is in Arizona, or it's going to be a little thicker, which is actually a bigger problem because it's going to be heavier and it's going to stick to your models and your layout. So I will talk about all the tools you want available when building your layout, but compressed air is going to be useful for getting in those tight places. Ooh, too much. And a paintbrush. Be careful when you're dusting your models. It could be fragile. I overbuild stuff, but you always want to be careful when you're doing that. And even have it on a end of a pole or a stick so you can reach over into your layout. And again, we'll oops. It's compressed air and it comes out really cold. You actually, if you turn it up, you can get a smoke effect too. This is just what I did. Also, I ran a small brass tube from this, ran it into my layout by the engines. So when you pull this, it actually, it'll go under your layout in through the brass tubing, and it gives a steam effect. And I did this a long time ago before I got into the more modern engines that they have all the effects. But one of my earlier layouts, I did that, so it was kind of cool when the train was sitting there. It looked like it was blowing off steam. Big waste. Anyway, anyway, that's a pretty dusty model. Anyway, just wanted to talk about dust a little bit. So let's get into the scratch building part of the structures. This one I just want to mention too, and again I'll give a close-up of this, but nothing more than paper, actually sticky notes that looks like shades from the outside. So that's the tip there. And let me pull. Actually, I'll do a close-up of the big structure I have behind me. The only reason it's pretty big and it takes up a lot of room, but it's narrow. So the footprint on that only looks like that. So it's really good to put that in the back of your layout, or actually it's big enough to work as a divider. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but let's say on your layout you've got the train running like this or like this, and I know that's an oval and I'm pretty anti-oval, but if you put up a divider here and make it into a mountain, like, I don't know, I'll have to erase this, but if it's a high enough mountain, it can be flat, but it acts as a divider. So on this side you could have, greenery, not left-handed, on this side you could have greenery on this side, and then you could have a city on this side. So you got this one real thin divider, and you could put scenery on that to kind of disguise it. But it works real good if you're limited on space, where you got your country over here, you got your city on this side. So that structure there is it's a grain elevator, or silo, and it's big enough to where it can actually work as one of those dividers. And you can play like some optical illusion games on your layout, and people will walk around and be like, oh my god, where'd the country go? When all the time it's on the other side of the city. So let me clear this up. Let me show you a couple more things. I wanted to show this kit. I actually didn't make this. I actually picked it up from a train show, a hobby event. It's made out of wood. It may or may not be a kit. I honestly don't know. But it looks like it's a little custom built. But it gives you an idea. You start with a base and of what you can do. It's a pretty neat little structure. I wish I had made it, but I didn't. But what's available out there to help you, I mentioned earlier Sarisa, that was the wood kit. But this is a company called Laser Cut Creative. And I don't know if you can see this, but they also have cardstock that's laser cut. And there's a bunch of fine, intricate windows. that you could use on a structure like I just showed you, but I will show you this, how it goes together. It's got all these fine little bricks that hopefully will fit together if this is the same piece. It doesn't take you long to actually see some sticks going up in the air and your structure coming to life. So it's really nice what's available right now. So let me set this aside. So another idea would be you get your two MTH buildings and you can make an alley between them, but also O-Gauge Railroading sells Ameritown, and you could just get some cardstock and put that in between the two buildings. So you've got a street scene, but you've only got a false front here, but you could put a flat roof, and all you've bought is, I think this is maybe a $12 piece versus what these cost. And also Woodland Scenic sells similar items that you can make buildings out of also. So dealing with kits or scratch building, you're going to need some of this eventually. This is cardstock, and it can be found at hobby stores or office supplies, and it's two pieces of heavy paper with foam in the center. What I'm going to do right here is I'll just show you how to put a window in. I did make a little mistake here, but this is the inside. So the other side should be unblemished by any of my mistakes. And got a window that fits right inside there. Actually, it'll be backwards. Let's be the inside. So that should work. Let me show you how I would work on the sides. Okay, so what I did, I put 45 angle cuts on here. So obviously I'm going to need to trim it up a little bit more, tighter. Then I'll put a straight angle in here, or a tool that's actually called a square, and that will give you a nice edge when those come together. Cardstock, it's really great material to work with. It cuts easily. This is a brand new blade, but cuts really well. There's foam inside, and I've heard that if you peel off the paper, you can impress, I guess, try this edge, exaggeration, and make stone wall. So not only do you get the strength of the paper, but you can also put designs into the plastic. So I had some extra pieces here and there. So these are going to be the windows. They don't match, but after you get done painting it, it won't really matter. So another great aspect of this material is when you cut out your windows, you can recess them a little bit. So it would give you textures, you know, whatever you want. Windows, doors, maybe filled up full of brick or something. But that's always, you know, just press it out just a little bit. Press it in rather. And you got a recessed window. But you know, putting real windows in there. So I just wanted to show that. That was pretty cool. And if you have like a backdrop that's, you know, in the back of your layout where there's not a whole lot of details really required, you could do the same thing with doors. You don't even need to buy aftermarket, you know, doors to put in there. You could just recess it a little bit, glue it on this side, and put a handle or doorknob on there, and then you've got your door all set. So really cool product. Another thing with the cardstock is that you can make a structure like this for very little money. These doors and windows come from a company called Grantline, and they have all kinds of stuff. They have doors, windows, anything that would accent a building. And the reason why I'm showing you this is most buildings that you buy at the hobby shop or buy online, they're going to be full-size buildings, you know, with a big footprint. But you can build something like this, and again, play with the optical illusion, and maybe have 3 inches rather than 6 or 10, and put that in the back of your layout. So you got this feeling of a city, and you got depth, but you know, what looks like a full-size warehouse is really only going to be that thick, and then you can put lights and all that stuff into it as well. But really good stuff. Grantline, that's where these come from. I'll have a close-up pointing down on top of this to give you more an idea of what this looks like. So that about does it for the O-gauge structures. We'll put lights obviously in them in a later video. The next video is going to be specifically on Miller Engineering signs. This should be very interesting. The next video after that will just be on scenery, just to touch on it a little bit, and it's mostly going to focus on making really cheap trees that are pretty tall, and they look pretty good. So thanks for watching. We'll see you again.